develops a desire, at least theoretically, that one should desire to satisfy Krishna's senses. But even though one has the desire due to hearing that one should try to satisfy Krishna's senses, one is not able to be situated exclusively on that platform. Therefore, one accepts whatever is favorable for that. One accepts whatever is favorable for that. So, if a desire for sense gratification can be Krishnaized, then one accepts that and one rejects whatever is unfavorable. But still, one is not free from the desire to satisfy one's senses. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks here, one is not free from the glitter. One wants the glitter, right? You're only trying to make that glitter Krishna conscious. But when one comes to the stage of purely satisfying Krishna's senses, then one does not find any glitter in any form of sense gratification. I just wanted to clarify this point. Is that clear, or is it going to probably bring up some questions? The one question that couldn't bring up was, how does one come to that platform? One cannot come to that platform just simply by thinking about it. No, one comes to that platform by just surrendering oneself. Whatever may be one situation currently, okay, I have a desire to satisfy my Krishna senses right now. So what? Let me do it in a Krishna conscious manner. But I will keep on doing it because I know that I'll get to the point where I want to satisfy only Krishna's senses. Okay, I'll stop here. Any thoughts, questions, comments, reflections? Looks like it's clear enough.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
To reach to that stage, when we what happens when unintentionally many times we try to satisfy our senses and we don't know also we are trying to satisfy our senses and dedicating it to Krishna, and we are doing it unknowingly, it becomes our habit or it becomes a part of our daily life. So how do we know that we are trying to satisfy our senses or we are trying to satisfy Krishna? Means how do we clearly think about that point?
That's why I said it's not a question of thinking about it. It's just like the sun. When the sun rises in the morning, all the darkness will go away. The point is to make the sun rise, right? Or the sun should rise. So similarly, the sun of Krishna should rise in our hearts. So we should make the sun rise in our hearts. So we constantly trying to surrender, the sun will rise. And when the sun rises, knowingly, unknowingly, all the kinds of darkness will dissipate. The darkness of knowing, darkness of not knowing, everything will dissipate. And one will be situated properly in Krishna consciousness. So one should constantly be in the association of devotees, hear from the devotees, and engage oneself as much as possible, continuously, in the process of devotional service. So by that, one makes the sun rise in the heart. And when the sun rises in the heart, all forms of darkness, both knowing, unknowing, everything will dissipate. One cannot do it. We are not a process of jnana where one constantly thinks of doing it, doing this, doing that. We only think about how to surrender more, how to surrender more, how to surrender more. Of course, we know what should be avoided as sinful activities. But beyond that, what can we do? What is unfavorable, we know. That also should be avoided. Even if something is not sinful, but if it's unfavorable, we still have to reject it. But whatever is prescribed, permitted, okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Pranam.
Anything else? What else? Okay.
Prabhuji, I want to ask about surrendering constantly. Is it a conscious process, like every time, in every situation, we keep thinking how to surrender in this process? How does it happen? I mean, that constant surrender, what do we do to actually practice that?
One does not think about surrendering, one actually does it. So otherwise, in the process of thinking I should surrender, we waste a lot of time. So if the mind tries to make us look at something from the mundane perspective, we try to look at it from a Krishna conscious perspective. Therefore, it is very important for us to hear Krishna Katha, to read Srila Prabhupada's books, because the more we read, the more we see the world through the vision of scripture, Shastra Chakshu. Krishna himself is called Shastra Chakshu. Krishna himself sees the world through scripture. So, being the devotees of God, we should also try to see the world through scripture, Shastra Chakshu. So, we should constantly be bombarded with scriptural vision, which is both through Prabhupada's books and by the words of the great devotees. So both of these our consciousness has to be filled with those. And the more our consciousness filled with it, the more we see things from a Krishna conscious point of view. So it is not a question of just thinking I should surrender more, I should surrender, I'm not surrendered. That's not what it is. It's actually doing something about it. Yes, while doing something about it, one may realize that one is not surrendered enough. But what can one do about it? No, nothing one can do about it, except be more surrendered. And to be more surrendered, you need to look at the world through the eyes of scripture. And to be able to look at the world through eyes of scripture, you should know what is scripture. And to know what is scripture, you should hear scripture. Read scripture and hear scripture.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Correct. Okay, you can go ahead, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji. After speaking in this way about pure devotional service, Lord Chaitanya began to describe.
One minute, Mataji. Radhakishori Mataji, we don't have a screen sharing facility today. If you are able to share, you can kindly share it. Otherwise, we'll continue as we're reading. Please go ahead.
Yes, Prabhu. After speaking in this way about pure devotional service, Lord Chaitanya began to describe that service and its symptoms to Rupa Goswami. He explained that in pure devotional service, there can be no desire other than the desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, there is no scope for worshipping any demigod or even any other form of Krishna, nor is there room for indulgence in speculative, empiric philosophy or fruitive activities. One should be free from all these contaminations. A devotee should accept only those things that are favorable for keeping his body and soul together and should reject those things that increase the demands of the body. Only the bare necessities for bodily maintenance should be accepted. By making one's bodily necessities secondary, one can primarily devote his time to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness through the chanting of the holy names of God. Pure devotional service means engaging all one's senses in the service of the Lord. At the present moment, our senses are all designated because the body is designated. So we think that our body belongs to a particular society or a particular country or a particular family. In this way, the body is in this way, the body is bound by so many designations. Similarly, the senses belong to the body And when the body is subject to such designations, the senses are also. Thus, one engages the senses on behalf of family, society, nation, and so on. When the senses are so engaged, one cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. The senses must be purified, and this is possible when one purely understands that he belongs to Krishna and that his life belongs to Krishna. In other words, that his identity is to be an eternal servant of Krishna. In this way, one can engage his senses in the service of the Lord, and such engagement is called pure devotional service. A pure devotee accepts the transcendental loving service of the Lord but rejects all kinds of liberation for his personal sense gratification. This is stated by Lord Kapila in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.29.11 to 14 in his explanation of the nature of pure devotional service. As soon as a pure devotee hears the glories and transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart, his mind at once flows toward the Lord, just as the waters of the Ganges flow down toward the sea. Such spontaneous attraction of the devotee's mind to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead signifies pure devotional service.
Okay, Mataji, did you hear that? So this is the point, that the mind has to spontaneously flow towards the lotus feet of Krishna. And therefore, which we need to first of all develop Shastric vision. So when we develop Shastric vision, then we'll be able to see everything in connection with Krishna. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. For him, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So, so by Shastric vision, one comes to that point of seeing Krishna everywhere and seeing everything in Krishna. So, and then this spontaneous flow of devotional service begins to manifest. Yes, Vach, please go ahead.
Devotional service is pure when one engages in the service of the Supreme Lord without any selfish motive and without being hampered by any material impediment.